Okay, in some breaking news coming in, 2000 rupee notes will also be phased out. This has been said by RSS Ideologue S. Gurumurthy. Gurumurthy was a part of the BJP's panel on black money, and he has exclusively spoken to India Today. In his conversation with India Today, S. Gurumurthy has said that the new 2000 rupee notes will be phased out over the next few years. Speaking to India Today, Gurumurthy said that the rupees 2000 note was introduced only as a bridge to meet the gap in cash being taken out of circulation. He says that the government is committed to moving towards a smaller denomination notes, and high denomination notes will be done away with in the next 5 years itself.
These 2000 rupee notes will also be taken back without demonetizing but remonetizing.
Obviously, because the banks will be told when you get 2000 rupee notes, you don't return them. Slowly the banks will accumulate the 2000 rupee notes and replace them with lower denominations. And if anything remains, 5%, 10%, 20% notes, they will say, come on, in the next 1 month or so, you change your 2000 rupee notes for 500 rupee notes.
So it will be like a virtual demonetization for 2000.
No. It is a phasing out. We have phased out many series like this in the past.
Remember, S. Gurumurthy is a key member of the RSS-backed Vivekananda India Foundation, and seniors in the government have been closely consulting him while deciding on how to deal with demonetization. Let's in fact try and connect to Managing Editor Rahul Kabal, who's joining us on the phone line. Rahul, first of all, if you could get us a little more details of Gurumurthy in his interview, what else he has said, if 2000 rupees are to be sucked out, which really are the denominations that we are looking at in the days to come?
So, first and foremost, we must understand why Mr. Gurumurthy's comments are important. He's a key RSS ideologue. He's delivering a big talk at 5:30 this evening at the Vivekananda Foundation, talking about the benefits of demonetization. He's been a key member of the economic thinking of the RSS. Now, he says that the 2000 rupee note is essentially being brought about as a bridge, because if the 500 and 1000 rupee notes were done away with and the 2000 rupee note was not introduced, then there would have been a crisis. People wouldn't have been able to cope because there would have been no currency. So he says the 2000 rupee note is just a bridge, and that a decision has already been taken that in some time from now, not immediately, so there is no need for immediate panic, but in some time from now, the 2000 rupee note will be done away with. Not in the fashion in which the 500 and 1000 rupee notes have been done away with. The difference would be that people would be told, that banks would be told, he says, not to reissue 2000 rupee notes. So they'll take back the 2000 rupee note but give back smaller change. He says the ideal currency for India is a 500 rupee note followed by a 250 rupee note followed by a 100 rupee note and then some smaller denomination. He says there is no need for a 1000 or a 2000 rupee note, and that this, he believes, is a decision the government has already taken. And we've spoken to some other officials as well. The general sense in the government seems to be that the focus must be on smaller currency, smaller denomination notes rather than big currency notes. Remember, this was one decision that was criticized because the government said high denomination currency encourages black money. So the question that people asked Mita was, if you're doing away with 1000 and 500 and introducing 2000, what explains this contradiction? This contradiction has been weighing heavy on the government's argument. Now we are hearing from a key RSS ideologue that the 2000 rupee notes will be done away with.
But Rahul, this brings me to my next question, because I'm not an economic expert, but just to understand, given the fact that there was so much of secrecy surrounding Prime Minister's demonetization drive when he wanted to in fact take out the 1000 rupee notes and the 500 rupee notes that almost formed 86% of the economy, if the ideologue is announcing here on that eventually 2000 rupee notes will be taken out as well, will that not impact, in fact, the government's entire operation against black money in the days to come?
There's a big difference, Smita. Demonetization of 500 and 1000 rupee notes was introduced as an immediate move. The whole process of doing away with a certain series of currency is a very continuous process. It's happened in the past. So what will be done in the future, according to Gurumurthy, we haven't heard the government's version on this yet, is it won't be a sudden move like the one that the Prime Minister said, but like what the UPA government did previously when a new 500 rupee note was introduced. They asked people to deposit back the previous 500 rupee notes and issued new 500 rupee notes instead. So this is remonetization, not demonetization. And actually, looking at it from a strategic perspective, it makes a lot of sense, because you're telling people who might be hoarding 2000 rupee notes or wanting to hoard 2000 rupee notes in the months and years to come, that if you do this, at some point in time in the future, these notes will be worth nothing. So
Right.
beware. Remember, it's far easier to accumulate a lot of currency if you've got 2,000 rupee notes than to try and do the same in a 100 rupee note. So there is, it's not inadvertent, it's not a mistake, it's well thought out. The messaging that is going out through informal but knowledgeable sources, that's the message. That if you collect 2,000 rupee notes, remember at some point in time, we're going to take them back. We'll focus on small currency.
Rahul, in fact, do stay with us. We will also be playing out that larger chunk of the interview that you just, in fact, completed with S. Gurumurthy. But let me get in Brajesh Kalappa of the Congress, who is joining us on the phone line. Mr. Kalappa, you know, for a lot of questions that will be raised by the Congress, that why is the government taking out 500, 1,000 rupee notes and introducing larger denominations? So if S. Gurumurthy now says that this denomination will be phased out in the next 5 years, do you think that this is, of course, a more sensible, a matured, a thought-out response by the government now?
No, one is that the main criticism against this move is that a lot of the confidence people had in terms of Indian currency, that has been somehow destroyed. And this kind of statements actually reinforce that inconfidence that people have developed in the Indian currency. And this is something Dr. Manmohan Singh had spoken about. This is something other people had also spoken about. Now, as everybody knows, this government is now panicky because it realizes that it has taken a major step without consulting the right individuals. And today they are desperately looking for endorsements everywhere. You know, we have, major companies which they have, the government has spoken to and asked them.
So, but when the government is wanting to talk on the issue in Parliament, it's the opposition that is choosing to stand outside and protest instead of holding discussions on the issue.
Mr. Rahul Gandhi's statement is on record to say that please allow me to speak. Then who is preventing Mr. Rahul Gandhi from speaking? Is it not the ruling party? And today the Prime Minister says, I'm not being allowed to speak. Why? But doesn't he have the strength to call for Parliament and to convene Parliament?
Okay, let's try and not shift focus from this issue of the moment. The exclusive news break. Rahul Kanwal has spoken to S. Gurumurthy, the RSS Ideologue, that the government has been consulting on several issues. I believe Gaurav Bhatia of the Samajwadi Party is also on the phone line. Gaurav, reaction from you on how do you look at this announcement that 2,000 rupee notes will also be, in fact, taken away from the system eventually, before I play out that chunk again of the interview?
This has clarified the doubts that we have in our mind and doubts that every citizen has, that probably the fringe organizations and the RSS know more than the statutory and constitutional authorities in India during the BJP government. And I think, such statements being made by him are at this juncture completely unwarranted because, there is, as it is, a lot of uncertainty in the air. And people are suffering because of the decision and poor implementation that we have seen. And an extra constitutional authority making such a statement. And that has become the hallmark of this government, that, the government ministers bow down to the RSS might. And this doesn't augur well for democracy.
Okay, I request both Gaurav Bhatia, Brajesh Kalappa to stay on the line with us. Rahul Kanwal is also there, but let me just first play out bits of that interview now with, remember Rahul Kanwal spoke to S. Gurumurthy a short while ago, and then we'll come back in fact to the questions that have been raised by our guests on the phone line.
So you're essentially saying it is your understanding that at some point in time in the next 5 years, these 2,000 rupee notes will also be taken back without demonetizing but remonetizing.
Obviously, because the banks will be told when you get 2,000 rupee notes, you don't return them. Slowly, the banks will accumulate the 2,000 rupee notes and replace them with lower denominations. And if anything remains, 5%, 10%, 20% notes, they will say, come on, in the next 1 month or so, you change your 2,000 rupee notes for 500 rupee notes.
So it will be like a virtual demonetization.
No. It is a phasing out. We have phased out many series like this in the past.
So you are saying it is obvious that at some point in time in the future, the 2,000 rupee note will also be eased out of circulation. Does that then not shake people's confidence in the currency, in the notes that they hold? Because at the end of the day, it's a promissory note and you hope that it is worth something. Suddenly, when a decision is taken, because there are some people who are storing it as black money, a lot of people who actually have genuine money who've been storing it over years for their child's wedding, school, college admission, all of them feel that this note is worth nothing. Their confidence in the note, and as a consequence in the government of India and in the RBI, is that not hit?
No, I think it has to be made clear that what is being done is not demonetization. It is replacing one currency by another. It is not like what it is today, that from today onwards you cannot use this note. If that is said that from today onwards you cannot use 2000 rupee notes, then what you say is right. What the banks will do, they will first collect all the 2000 rupee notes which comes in, and they will begin giving only the other note. So let us assume by this they mop up 60, 70, 80% of the notes over a period of one year or so. Then the remaining notes, they will say, in the next 2 months or 3 months.
So what is the ideal currency? 100 rupee, 200 rupee, 500?
According to me, 500 rupee note should be the highest currency.
And below that?
250, even 200, 100 is okay.
No more than that? No 1000 rupee note?
No.
No, and you
No,
think the
not
government
at
is
all.
heading in that direction?
I think so. This 2000 rupee note is only a bridge, because they had to do it in a
But
short.
if that's the ultimate goal, why create a bridge? You could have just done it in this instance.
No, that would require more time. Obviously, the government did not have the luxury of time. That is why they had to do it. This is my
So for
speculation.
viewers just tuning in, you're watching this exclusive news break only on India Today this Monday evening. S. Gurumurthy, of course, in that exclusive conversation with Rahul Kanwal, suggesting that the 2000 rupee notes will also be taken out of the system in the next 5 years, and the government prefers smaller denominations between 100 to 250. Before I go back to our guests and Rahul Kanwal, let's try and play out, in fact, an interview that Debina Gupta, my colleague, has done with former RBI Director Kiran Karnik.
I'm not privy to any inside things on this.
Will there be a crackdown on those who are errant bankers or the black sheep in the system, and what kind of crackdown will the government or the Reserve Bank of India be minding?
I have no idea. That's for the government to do, yeah. But very clearly there are laws, and the Reserve Bank as regulator has very, very clear regulations, rules and guidelines, and any violation will obviously get a rap on the knuckles at the minimum.
All right, sir, just last question. The Reserve Bank of India has said in short term there will be some temporary growth setback. 2 quarters at least is what we are looking at. Is that a rough estimate of when we'll see also growth dipping, because you have a budget around the corner, you have industry IP production already dipping, so what kind of pain can we see?
The Reserve Bank says 2 quarters, and I believe them. I don't think this is going to go away in the next few months. Clearly the hope is, and I'm optimistic on that count, that past those 2 quarters you'll see growth rebound and in fact take off on a new trajectory. And that's the hope, that in the short term, which one hope would be 3 months, but which may be 6-8 months, after that you'll get a rebound in the economy, and that you'll get to a higher plane of growth. And there'll be less tax evasion, more transactions that are traceable, more taxation income, and I think it's going to be generally beneficial. But as I said, the crucial period is how long is that window, and what is people's patience to go through that window and the difficulty.
So do you also believe there's a case for 2000 rupee notes rollback in coming years?
Well, there would ultimately be, frankly, I'm sure there are very good reasons and some very clever people have thought through it, but I don't see the logic of 2000 rupee notes, because if you want to move to a digital economy, you must start maybe at both ends, easy transactions on a mobile wallet, but at the high end you must make it in fact necessary that all high-end transactions are done electronically through NEFT, RTGS, and we have excellent systems in this country. In fact, they're world class in terms of electronic transfer of money. So why the 2000 rupee note at all? It doesn't make logic to me, but I said the clever people who I'm sure have thought through it.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Thanks.
Okay, so you heard the bureaucratic voice there, Kiran Karnik, of course, a former director on the RBI. And I'm joined now by Shaina NC of the BJP. Also, Brajesh Kalappa of the Congress continues to be with us. Shaina, just before you joined in on this exclusive news break that we've done on India Today, where Gurumurthy has said that the 2000 rupee notes will also be taken out of the market, Mr. Brajesh Kalappa hinting that, this will in fact lead to panic modes, that the government is basically not sure about how to proceed forward. Shaina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please repeat your question.
Mr. Brajesh Kalappa of the Congress is on the phone line with us, and he's suggesting that basically the government has not been consulting the opposition parties, and the government is very unsure of what it is doing, that this kind of an announcement, it will actually lead to further panic.
Well, first and foremost, let me please say that there's no need to get into any speculative mode or to suggest that there are going to be measures taken by the government immediately or in the future. Let the government announce what it has to. I think everyone is entitled to creating their own opinion or promoting an awareness campaign on the ills of black money and how important it is to have a cashless society.
I'm sorry to
But I think-
interfere, Shaina, but Mr. S. Gurumurthy is a very, in fact, seasoned face. He's an RSS ideologue, and government has been consulting him on several issues. So he does speak from a position of confidence, really. You know, it's not about anybody and everybody's opinion, really.
Please let me tell you that we all respect Swaminathan Gurumurthy, not just as a journalist or as a chartered accountant, but he's also the co-convener of the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, an organization that is working towards promoting awareness in the Swadeshi movement, which is known to all. I only want to make one limited point, that whether the government decides to eventually ease out 2,000 rupee notes or not is a decision which is taken by the highest level of leadership, whether it's the Prime Minister in collusion with the Finance Minister or the technocrats and economists who are advising the government. So I would only want to say at this juncture, the government has only one agenda, which is to make sure that society understands the importance of what we have done. A one-stroke decision which has done away with terror, black money, fake currency, drug mafia and corruption is something that needs to be welcomed in totality. As far as Gurumurthy ji's view is concerned, I'm sure lots of Indians endorse it and would want to believe that this is what is going to happen in the days to come. But let the government take that stand rather than us going into speculation of what should happen and how the situation.
You know, but Mr. Brajesh Kalappa, Shaina, they're saying that wait for the government to make such announcements, despite, of course, the seniority that Mr. Gurumurthy enjoys in the scheme of things. Would you say that perhaps this is a smart way of messaging through some of their voices, so that people who are thinking of holding the 2,000 rupee notes are also deterred by this kind of an announcement, which comes in not through government channels directly, but, of course, through faces that are closely associated with the government?
See, the first thing is that this government had no plan of action. They entered into something which they were not particularly sure of, and they wanted to do something dramatic, and they have done something which has put the whole country's life into disarray. Now, after having put the whole country's life into disarray, they have no plan of action to come back and to bring life back to normal. Now, it's been already a month. As you see, the lines in the banks are not coming down. Winter is about to set in. And the difficulties of the people are becoming more and more and more and more. And now what is happening is that the government is speaking to various other voices, besides to infuse a sense of confidence in the public that there are very intelligent minds which have thought about this. It would have been easiest, because we are today a very large nation. We are a nation of 130 crore. You know, major decisions like this couldn't be taken by laymen. They should have been taken by eminent economists. Now,
Mr. Kalappa, denomination drive is something that was announced, which has been announced. Now, looking forward to this specific question, do you think that in a way maybe S. Gurumurthy announcing it instead of the government directly, perhaps is a thought about deterrence for those wanting to hoard the new 2,000 rupee notes?
No, what deterrent? Because the 2,000 rupee note is in existence, and if the government withdraws these 2,000 rupee notes, the confidence in the rupee and the currency will be even more impacted. As it is very badly impacted. It will be a death knell for the people's confidence in the.
Okay, let me get in China and see on that a quick reaction, China, before I go to my colleague Devina Gupta. He says, Brajesh Kalappa says, this will be a death knell for people's confidence in the Indian rupee.
Well, I only want to say that obviously the surgical strike on black money has put a lot of opposition parties into a box where they're not sure whether they're going to sustain, whether they're in an insecurity mode is best known to them. But do understand, this is not a political decision. This is a decision taken on a high moral ground, which is purely to curb the unaccounted money, and this system will flush out the black money ahead of elections, which may be a big worry to the Congress party, and that's why it's commenting. As far as the denomination is concerned, the RBI has said that there will be a certain kind of availability to all in the days to come, because things do get normalized after the processes are in place, which is to have enough currency in all the 2 lakh ATMs or 1.55 lakh banks that are present in the city. But I think it's important to also understand that in 2014, the RBI had announced that it would withdraw from circulation all bank notes issued prior to 2005. So these are decisions which are taken by the RBI. If rupees 1,000 notes were introduced again in November 2000 and constituted 39% of the notes in circulation, I think that we have to give it to the economists of this country that they know how to contain fake currency. They know how to do away with the ill-gotten money that the terrorists are using to destabilize India. And the Prime Minister is a man of integrity who has only one agenda: to do away with corruption, short-term pain, long-term benefit.
Shaina and Brajesh Kalappa, do stay with me. I would just like to bring in my colleague, in fact, Devina Gupta, who also spoke to Kiran Karnik, the former RBI director, just a very short while ago. Devina, Shaina NC here saying that this is a decision not simply taken politically, but it's a high moral objective decision. Does that mean the discrepancies are taken care of? Does that mean that the challenges are taken care of? Give us a sense of what Kiran Karnik had to say, and if you were able to put forward the point raised by S. Gurumurthy that 2,000 rupees would be taken out of the system soon.
Well, let me tell our viewers also, Smita, as well as the political discussion that I was overhearing, that this policy was long in the making. Even when Kiran Karnik was part of the director RBI Central Board is when this policy was being discussed. One is that. The second is that top sources in the RBI have also told us that 2,000 rupee discontinuation, if the decision is taken, then it will not only erode the currency trust that you enjoy, because if you look at the note, it says, I promise to pay the bearer, and you have the RBI governor's signature on that. So this is a very important point. After the entire demonetization drive that we're seeing, after you're talking about 500 and 2,000 rupee new notes, particularly in 2,000 rupee notes, because they were first printed. If they are discontinued going ahead, will there be an erosion of currency trust that we see with people? Already, I can tell our viewers that there is a cash deficit which is seen. 4 lakh crore has made its way back to the system. 2 lakh crore which were there earlier. That means out of 14 lakh crore is just this bit of currency that is available for the consumers, for the people who are lining up at ATMs and banks. And imagine getting the 2,000 rupee, and after a point of time when you discontinue a currency, it is a major decision that will impact a lot of people. And also as Gurumurthy going on and spilling the beans there, Kiran Karnik on his own has said that it is an illogical decision to introduce a high value currency. You should always introduce a lower value currency, keeping in mind the inflation, keeping in mind the distribution. And 2,000 rupees.
Devina, I'm afraid we are running out of time here. I will have to stop you there. But clearly, this is in fact the exclusive news break that we're talking about. S. Gurumurthy's statements to India Today's Rahul Kaval. There will be more political reactions as well as bureaucratic reactions that will pour in. We'll continue to track them.